Well, to discuss this with me and more is Dr. Godwin Udofia, Chairman, Nigerian Environmental Society, Akwa Ibom State. Doctor, welcome once again to Political Spectrum.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
With him is Dr. Chris Udi, Environment and Safety Analyst, a member of the Nigerian Environmental Society, Akwa Ibom State Chapter. Welcome.
You so much. Thank you so much for having me.
So here we are talking flooding again. And at least from 2012, where we had the first mini tsunami, one would say, when Goodluck was president. At least if we had not had it in that dimension before, we had the former president's village submerged in that flood. But 12 years down the line, we are here again. And by the way, what happened in Maiduguri was not related to the River Benue per se. That was just the failure of the dam. But we've heard that the dreaded release of water from the Ladro Dam has actually arrived at our doorsteps. This time, it's not just people in the north. Those in the south actually will be the greatest victims, some would say. Walk us through how we got here, if you can.
Okay. Thank you. You just made a very good point. By 2012, we experienced the worst flooding in Nigeria. And between 2012 and now, we are still talking about flood with its attendant consequences and so on. It shows that and tells us that we've not done anything about the past experiences. Because it is believed that after 2012, states, beginning from the federal government and then the states that are prone to this, supposed to have been, they're supposed to have put measures, kind of raising their preparedness. This is a natural phenomenon. Apart from the one we are having from Lagbo Dam, it's a natural thing. Flooding can come at any time. So states are supposed to be prepared. They should have contingent plans that
if this
flood
happens,
it comes, this is what should be done, this is what should be done. In the first instance, I think what each of these states needed to have done is to, first of all, identify areas that are of high risk. Identify those areas and put other plans, evacuation. After evacuation, there must be a camp that you are going to put them, the people that are displaced together. When you bring them to the camp, how about feeding? How about protecting them against the elements? How about medicals? So these are things that are supposed to have been put in place before we begin to experience what we're experiencing today. If we still allow it to be the way it is, in fact, if the flood comes next year, the effect might be even more devastating than what we have.
Wow. Well, very, very scary. And by the way, we've not seen the floods yet. What we just saw in Maiduguri and the surrounding areas was just I don't know, an opening act, some would say, with regards to the flooding. But Mr. Chris, we just heard what Doctor said. And today we are focusing on what the federal government, we are going to look at the federal, but our focus today is the state government. From what we heard, there was some team that went to evaluate that dam. It looked at the dam and it gave it a clean bill of health. And days after, the dike gave way and what happened. Now, a few other dams have been highlighted. You have one in Sokoto that people pointed out, and the government came again and gave a clean bill of health. Quite a number of other ones. I'm asking, when you hear these teams who carry out these inspections come out and say the things that they say, is it because people are beginning to lose confidence, right? Is this an issue of they didn't want to? We have a culture in Nigeria where we manage everything. Something is bad, we say, okay, we can manage it. Or was it just clear out incompetence? Or on the other flip side, was it something more nefarious? Something they just wanted something like this to happen because people are beginning to say maybe they wanted something like this to happen so that people could rally around and make donations. Where are we? And what's your thought about it?
All right, okay. Thank you so much for having me. What I want to say there in a sense is this, when we talk about flooding, we all know flood is a natural phenomenon. It continues or must continue to happen, but the necessary measures are supposed to be put in place. Just like what you've said, some people were sent for a particular assignment to go and carry out investigation and know what actually the current state of those dams. But they came in. What I want to say there is this. It's not the government were not doing the right thing. They're supposed to have engaged an independent body to carry out that thing. Those people actually go onto the dam with people sent from the ministries and then the ministry of directors of ministries. And then they were also going there with an ulterior motive to just service, coming to said sweet-coated things, and then they said, okay, this platform, okay, the dam is also okay. We have an independent body who's supposed to have been given that responsibility to go there, to look it professionally and know the state of those dams, so that these people now can advise the government professionally on certain things to do. If we have now the members of we have Nigerian safety organizations and then environmentalists, those people who are, their responsibility has to do with those facilities, especially maybe people that actually built it. Before now, we have the contractors, okay, you send them, they would have told you, okay, these dams are deteriorating. There is a need for repairs, there is a need for alternative measures to be put in place. Now that the disaster has come, we wouldn't have been up to this point. We would have mitigated it right before now. So I want to use this platform to also let the government know that not everything must be political, especially anything that has to do with human lives. Look at the loss of lives we've lost in Maiduguri. And then now the flood of rain is still coming. The rain is still coming. There is no indication that the rain is going to stop any moment from now. It's still coming, and those dams are there. What do you expect? It's going to spray for other parts of the northern region and then moving down to the south. So nobody is safe in this situation. So the government should endeavor to do the right thing, especially when anything that has to do with lives and properties of Nigerians, of citizens. The disaster that had just happened in Maiduguri and up north is avoidable, something that would have been avoided if professionals were engaged to carry out this assignment.
Dr. Chris just said this, and I'm looking at these people, again, there's a question of these people are in the ministries, for instance, if those are the people that went there, are we saying that the ministries should no longer have this? Because what if we end up having people who are doing certain jobs in the ministry and we're calling the private sector in, there's no ground or no reason to retain those people. That's on one side. But on the flip side, now these people are also members of these professional bodies that Mr. Chris, pointed us to. What is the responsibility of these organizations in penalizing members who run foul? Because I know that Nigerian Society of Engineers, for instance, when a building collapses and they investigate and they find out that an engineer was culpable, or the architect, they will sanction the person. So what is the role of these organizations, these governing organizations, whose members who may be working in the ministry, state, federal, or whatever level, who carry out this inspection, come out with clean bills of health, and then when these disasters happen that nobody is held accountable, what should they be doing?
Thank you. Let's remind ourselves of the fact that very dam we are talking about, I think this is the third time that it has experienced that failure, structural failure. It fell first in 2012. It fell again somewhere, I can't remember the year. and this is the third time. It is even the locals that brought the situation of the dam
to the notice of
ISEN. So as you are saying, well, what we may request will be, can we see the credentials of the people that were sent to go and carry out those investigations? Mr. Chris has just said something. You see, when we bring in politics into everything, we always like putting, square pegs in round holes.
You do see you're saying now, when you, I'm not a fan of the North Korean government administration, but something similar, they executed the people that were involved. But in this country, we don't have...
Not only North Korea, China. In China, this nonsense can't happen in China. If you are responsible for what has just happened, they have given you the mandate to go and inspect the district. Even local people have noticed that the dam was giving way. And then you go... As a professional. Gone in there, you made your investigation, and then you came back and reported. Give a clean bill. And as God will have it, a few days after, this incident has occurred. You can't get away from it. You can never get away from it. But the only problem that we have in Nigeria is that, we need to cure the system from the head. You see, you can have ailments.
What do you mean by cure the system?
I'm coming there. You can have sickness or ailments anywhere in your body, and you can still function. But the moment the central is in that controls the system, which is the brain, is affected, no matter what, you are not functional again. Our system is rotten at the head. Our system, the Nigerian system, is rotten at the head. So if we want, or if we don't want this kind of situations to happen, we need to cure ourselves. As a nation, we need to cure ourselves from that level.
Break it down. You've raised a big point. Are you talking with regards to restructuring or the system of the political system we are running, whether it is too central? Give us specific. When you say, is it a corruption issue? When you say our system is rotten from the top, from the head, what do you mean?
Now, number one, you've just said it. The corruption that has enveloped the system is so massive that things like this will keep on happening. We have a governor in Borno State, cerebral prof, but for such a thing to happen in his state, it gives us room to begin to question. Who were the people? As I said, this event, that very dam has had those defects.
And that is the state of the vice president.
Good. The vice president is from there. And we're having a state governed by, I think, in terms of academic, that should be the highest
governor
attainment. I mean, the governor.
Yes.
So why should this kind of thing happen? And as I've said, that dam had exhibited this structural defect. This is the third time. It's on record. It's the third time. It happened the first time, even if nothing was done about it. Why the second time, and why now? So we were talking about, I'm not really going into restructuring. I'm talking about a situation. You see, the kind of command structure we have, the command structure we have in the nation doesn't allow, number one, initiatives to see the light of day. That's number one. Then number two, when constituting that very committee, as I said, can we know the credentials of the people that made up that committee? Don't be surprised that you may have found a lawyer in that very committee that went to investigate that. You may have found many people that are not within the profession that is supposed to do an assessment.
A technical
assessment of such nature. Don't be very surprised. So these are the issues that we have. And why was that so? It's because of political influence, political affiliations, political patronage.
Well, we are not certain on that because the Borno state governments have not carried out any investigation whatsoever. Maybe they will say it's too early. We'll watch. We have all kinds of questions with regards to ecological fund and what the states have been using. But before that, let's take a little look at what the government is doing. Minister of State for Environment recently had something to say with regards to the mobilization that government have embarked upon with regards to moving in a few health workers to help with the system, because as we know it, the system there is under severe pressure. It's only the help of the coalition of non-governmental workers, doctors, people, everybody is involved in trying to minister health care to the people of Borno State. Let's take a listen to the Minister for State for Environment.
By the Minister, a team consisting representative of the Environmental Health Council of Nigeria, Department of Pollution Control, the Environmental Health Department, Department of Flood, Erosion and Coastal Zone Management, and the National Park Service has been put together and will be heading to Maiduguri to perform several post-flooding services. Imperative to sound some caution to the people, authorities and stakeholders to be wary of diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, that may occur in an epidemic proportion arising from the use of water already contaminated for cooking and drinking. And the visit by the Minister, a team consisting representative of the Environmental Health Council of Nigeria.
That's Adekunle. He was talking about the issues accompanying the flooding. When floods like this happen, you begin to see things like cholera and other waterborne diseases. Prior to that, we had this report from international media that because the water overtook the zoo, we had even crocodiles on the streets and snakes. Mr. Chris, this issue, when we're talking about environmental disasters of this and again, we are looking at Maiduguri for now, but this is coming south. This is coming in a few days or weeks. If a precedent is to be taken as a pointer, we may have this situation in Bayelsa, in Rivers State. Kwara is already beginning to prep for things like this. Do you look at the preparedness of our government agencies and stakeholders as enough?
Yes, I want to say this is never enough when Nigeria is involved. Any measures put in place to preventive measures is never enough. That is why you see, even in Borno State, immediately that thing happened now, the flood happened, you see a lot of people were running up and down, there were no measures in place. What I want to say is this: Borno State is a flashpoint. We have been having incidents like that. We even have the internally displaced camp, the IDPs, and then are those camps really working? And then you understand the topography now. Because of the volume of the flood, most of these infrastructures has already been submerged. Now they are now just trying to see how far to make a makeshift to put up some structures elsewhere to take care of these emergency issues. All right, that's fine. That is up north. What about the state you are talking about now, the down south? Do we have any health center? Okay, now that we are not in emergency period now, we are in a very low, relatively safe period now. Can you move into any close by health center to get a proper medical care? Because to do anything, these things are not in place.
You are even talking about your way you're talking is even further. I'm even looking at now if this volume of water hits us, like looking at history, we are going to experience flooding.
Yes.
We are supposed to be looking at this point, maybe have a map. The government of Bayelsa, for instance, or River, whatever, all of these high-risk areas, Benue, will say, okay, this area is flood-prone. People in this area should evacuate. Now, when you say they should evacuate, Where are they evacuating to? Now, that place they are evacuating, you made mention of camps. Those say, let's just say they take the camp, for instance. Those camps, who is administering those camps? What are the facilities there? Do we have the health you talked about? Can they cater for issues like, say, cholera? Are we prepared for this flood at all?
In addition to that, fine, Nigeria is a developing world, but God has blessed us with the resources. Smaller countries in African countries and even in the Caribbean, where we have flood facing them face to face, they put certain mechanism in place. There is a flood warning mechanism that is being installed in most of these prone areas to give you an advance indication, warning, that maybe the rain or the flood that is coming is going to reach you any moment from now. You start preparation and move away. Those mechanisms are not there in place, and Nigeria can afford it. State government can afford it. Part of the ecological funds that government are collecting, state government are collecting from the federal government, they could say, if these areas are prone to flood and maybe high flood of rain, or maybe the dams are breaking in it, let us install this mechanism, this instrument in certain of these places. Why? To be able to let us know in advance that this disaster is coming, so that you can now start the issue of evacuation. Now that the flood is coming, let's just say maybe in the next 1 month, in the next 2 weeks, it might come to downside. But if you have those mechanisms, those machines being installed in strategic place, Bayelsa, and then all those lines in the Gulf of Guinea, closer to the Atlantic, because it's going to overflow any moment from now, we can do it. For example, Akwa State government can install those and can afford it. Understand me? They can, and then make those things installed. And secondly, on our health care. Now, up till now, do you know that even people from Bekasi that were displaced from Bekasi and then they brought into Akwa Ibom for camps, those people were displaced. For how many years now that we had issue of Bekasi? Those people have not been settled properly. So you were talking about preparedness. I want to assure you that we are not prepared for this. And when it happens like that, you find out that I come an African man will now resort to prayer and fasting. I'm telling them that it's not a matter of prayer and fasting here. The government have the resources to put necessary measures in place in preparation to this coming disaster.
Dr. Godwin.
Yes, let me add this. Certain agencies of government, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, the Meteorological Agency in Nigeria, I think far back, is it February or March? They have made their prediction. In fact, they stated and identified the local governments and the number of states that is going to be affected by what is happening.
Yes.
They mentioned the states and they mentioned the local government. I can't remember the statistics now. It is what I had engaged,
No, we were sure that with 30 states were going to be affected.
Yes.
That was said, yes.
And then local governments were identified. Now, that very flooding that the hydrological services predicted was not even linked to what we're having in Maiduguri.
Mm-hmm. That was just from the release of water from the Lado Dam.
Now, before the Cameroonian government did the release, they just, I think, 2 or 3 days ago.
On Wednesday.
They had given prior information to the Nigerian state that this is what we are about to do.
Yes.
And we know that traditionally this is what happens around this time with that dam in Cameroon. That always there is a release, because when you have the reservoir, by the time the reservoir gets beyond the carrying capacity, if you don't do anything about it, the dam will collapse. So that is why Cameroonian government periodically will release the excess water.
Now you raised this issue.
Let me just add this. They have not even predicting, they have told the Nigerian government the amount, the volume of water they are about to be released per second.
I took that story yesterday, and starting from Wednesday, it was supposed to be 100 cubic meter of water per second.
Per second.
And it was going to be gradually eased up to 1,000 standard cubic meter of water. That's equivalent to about 1 million liters per second.
1 million liters.
Now, this is the question I'm asking, because even when Femi Bejide of the Hydrological Agency, he said something yesterday, and he talked about the desilting, which is one of the key issues with the Cameroonian Lagbo Dam. It's been, because of silt, its capacity to hold water in that reservoir have been reduced probably 80%. Nigeria was supposed to build a complementary dam on the Benue, but we've never done that since 1981. Now, and we are having this issue. We've not talked about the issue. Now, the government is saying they're going to build 5 dams. They are saying they are going to desilt the Niger and the Benue. They are going to dredge the Niger basin and the Delta region. Why have we not done this since? And if we are going to do this, when are we going to do it, and when will we begin to benefit?
And the flood is coming.
The flood is already here.
The flood is coming. It's already with us. The thing is that, well, as I said, there's something I don't know how to describe it. There's something fundamentally wrong with our leadership. What you are hearing about desilting, about building dams, about all those things, it is what we've been hearing every year. It's not the first time that those statements have been made. We've heard about, right from when, in fact, because it was in 2012 that Nigeria really came face to face with what we knew as, or what we've been hearing about flooding. We used to hear about it in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and so on. But it came to Nigeria by 2012. So we saw it. A situation where we are sitting in a 2-story building, the level of flood has taken the first floor, probably the second floor. It is happening in Nigeria. Between 2012 and today is 2004, 2004. And then we are still talking about what an incident that is kind of reoccurring right from 2012 till today.
12 years.
Right from then till today. We are still, and don't be surprised if nothing is done. If this situation happens again by next year, we are still going to experience the same thing. We've been talking, professional organizations have been talking, we've been making our effort. But it's only that our effort sometimes will fall on deaf ears. The Nigerian Environmental Society, both at the national and at the state level, have been trying to make sure that government sit up to their responsibilities. Akwa Ibom State government the other day said, okay, they are preparing, and then they were talking about the silting gutters, as if that is the kind of flood we are talking about. The silting gutters in the urban area does not have is not a remedial process, because the volume of water that is coming is not a localized flash rain that you think the channels of drainages can carry. It's not that. We are talking about all the area, the surface of the land becomes gradually, submerged. You see the water level rising gradually. By today is at this level.
Especially
by tomorrow,
the coastal.
All the coast. In fact, the Benue basin, that comes down to then the south, the coast, the coastal state. If you trace the river channels, this very river from Meduguri, it still empties into the Benue. So the water there is coming in from Boronu to that side. Then this other one from Cameroon is also coming in.
The Garawa River.
Yes, it's still coming in. And then we are having heavy precipitation because of this climate issue. The amount of rainfall now seems to be, if it rains for 1 hour, the volume of precipitation currently exceed what used to happen in the previous years. So the volume of the river flowing from Benue down to the south is increasing. So it will overflow the banks, and then it will create this havoc that we are seeing.
Mr. Chris, what Doctor said now, we have also begun to hear the issue of climate change. And it's almost as if climate change is the excuse for now. Everybody, the Northeast Development Committee, the came together, put together a conference, and what they were talking about was climate change as one of the major issues of the dam and the flooding and all of this. But that's one side to the story, just one side to the story. We've been talking about government's ability to take a look at these issues and prepare for it, which we've not seen. And only a few weeks ago, I think it was the king of Ishikiri, one of these kings in Warri, Olu of Warri, I think it was the Olu of Warri, that they came out to say that the level of the water, advancing from the Atlantic, hitting the coast. Akwa Ibom actually holds the longest coastline in Nigeria. What do you think? Because I've already asked this question. The answer you gave to me was giving me a heart attack. That we are not prepared. What should we be doing, looking at the impact of climate change on one hand, and looking at these issues of poor management of water resource that is hitting us from this water release in Cameroon? The states, because this in the next few days, I wouldn't be surprised to hear, already 2 weeks ago we heard that in Bayelsa they were having flooding, in River they were having flooding, and somewhere in Asaba they were having. So what are the people there supposed to be doing? I'm looking at solutions to the problems that we are facing.
All right, thank you very much. You see, it is an emergency already. When emergency happens and they don't have any mitigation parameters in place, the only thing you have to do, you have to handle the matter as urgent as possible. What I'm going to advise in this point in time is this: orientations in this coastal area. The government should swing into, set up a committee and move swiftly to orientation. And secondly, they should also put measures in place for immediate evacuation of those people from the coastline, moving upland. They should put measures in place, camps in place, definitely, because we cannot say we want to go and build dams, we want to go and do the silting now. It's already late because the water is coming and the water moves very fast. So orientation, we should engage the communities, the paramount rulers, the leaders of those communities, letting them know the impending doom that is about to come. Orientation is very important. Nobody should panic. They should start put their house in order and prepare for any time soon to move, evacuation, moving upland. And then the government itself also, through the various ministries and agencies, they should put in place camps for the internally displaced persons that originally they have aboriginal settlements from the coast area. People should move now. If you see, the primary purpose of governance is to protection of lives and properties. Let us move them, because we cannot now say, okay, they want to award contract to do any other two things. It's already late. Let them put measure in place. First thing, to save human lives. They can leave property behind. Just their belonging, they move upland. And when we're coming to your people in the coastal area, they can come to the immediate upland that we know that this flood will not take. And secondly, I want to say this. Doctor has said this thing before. In doing this, in setting up these committees, they should not bring in people who does not have the requisite knowledge and experience and professional background to handle this matter. This is not a political compensation assignment. They should not bring in politics here, to not bring in politicians here to come in and mess up the situation. They should bring the people that are sensitive, they understand the impact of what we are facing now, so that the people form part of the committees. The Nigerian Society of Engineers are there now. The people from the safety and environment people are there, and the healthcare people who are there understand. The Nigerian Society of Engineers, people who are professional, they know the impact of what we are trying to do. They should be engaged. And we are here to offer our services as far as this assignment is concerned.
The Nigerian Society of Environment.
Yes, we are the Nigerian Environmental Society. We are here to offer the necessary orientation. You tell them the impact, so that people should not be skeptical, so that, because of a lot of the people, citizens are really lose interest in anything that government has to say. So if they see a different set of people coming in to let them know this thing has to do with a life and death thing, you have to move. It's for the sake of yourself and your family. They will definitely respond swiftly to the advice so that we can move on. So the most important thing now that we have to do now is for us to prepare for emergency evacuation.
Doctor, we looked at the Borno flooding, and we saw quite a number of people came out to give. The last we counted was about 17 billion naira from, but some of the things you're talking about, Chris is talking about, has to do with money. We also know that the government has ecological funds. Probably should be able to marshal some of this. But what about those people who would say, this is my house, this is where I grew up and I don't want to move anywhere? And then what is the guarantee that if I were to move somewhere, I'll be cared for? How do we have, because we've seen things like this happen in the past, and people, because they don't want to move, they end up being a victim of the flood.
Yes, thank you. You see, for the very first time, let us try and do things differently. If you do a thing in a particular way and you get a particular result, if you keep on using that same method, you will still get the same result. So it's a high time that we probably look for some other ways to handle these matters. Mr. Chris has mentioned constituting professionals for this very task. For example, Nigeria Environmental Society, we are not requesting for payment.
Yes.
It is a service that we need to render to the society. What do we do? Probably the only thing maybe the society will need will be the logistics. How do we move from here to there, from this place to this other place? But the point is that may not be possible. Because, I'm sorry to say this, these are avenues where, I wouldn't say politicians, but these are avenues that people, leverage on, to line their pockets. So by the time, at the end of this, you hear how much has been expended. And you begin to ask yourself questions. These very measures, where were they? It's not something you see. It's not tangible. It's something on paper. So what we are trying to say is this. Government should look for a way to tackle this matter differently. Not the same method, through civil service, through this, and then they constitute they pick members from either ministries or agencies to go, and they will come back and still give you the same report.
Yes.
Just like what happened in Borno now. They will come, they will tell you it's okay. Meanwhile, the money that has been expended for the committee is gone.
We're out of time. We are out of time. I would have talked about, I'll bring you back. We'll talk about some of the ecological issues that Akwa Ibom is facing. For instance, this calamity. We had a road collapse the other day. We don't know whether it's been rectified up till now. We'll talk about it another day. And I also wanted to talk about what we are hearing from Borno State, that some of them have been moved out of the camp and they are told to go back to their homes. But we're out of time.
Sorry to cut in. I don't know whether you've seen any clip where people in Borno were given relief materials from boat. They were throwing bread. I don't know what I've seen.
No, I've not seen that.
I saw it.
They throw bread, to people that some of them that were able to stay. They throw about two bread.
Well, we've had Dr. Godwin Udofia, Chairman, Nigerian Environmental Society of Akwa Ibom State. We had this conversation. Well, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so much.
He wasn't alone. He came with Mr. Chris Rudi, environmental and safety analyst, a member of the Nigerian Environmental Society of Akwa Ibom State chapter. Gentlemen, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so much.
We're out of time, and that's how far we can go today. I'm praying that whatever you do, prepare for the floods. If the government is not preparing for you, at least put your documents in a safe place. Get a bag ready that if you need to evacuate immediately, you have basic essentials in that bag: medicines, food, some money, maybe address, someone you could you could go to, money, someone's phone number, for instance. Get ready just in case you are in an environment where the flood can hit you and you need to move in a jiffy. But whatever you do, try and be safe. And from us, it's a goodbye.